God, help me heal my son.
Where's my son?
Chijioke, he's very sick. I don't know what to do.
Take him to the hospital quickly. Don't waste time.
The morning sun had barely risen over Lagos when Tunde pushed open the creaking gate of his small compound, carrying his son Chijioke in his arms. The boy's face was pale, his small chest rising and falling with shallow breaths, and every cough shook him like a fragile bread. Tunde's heart pounded harder than the engines rattling along the nearby road. The air was thick with the smell of wet asphalt and roasted plantains from the street vendors, and somewhere a car horn blared insistently, adding to the cacophony of a city that refused to pause for anyone's suffering. "Tunde, where's my son?" a voice called sharply. It was Mrs. Olumide, his neighbor, peering over the fence, her head wrapped in a bright Ankara scarf. "Chijioke, he's very sick," Tunde said, his voice trembling. "I don't know what to do." "Take him to the hospital quickly. Don't waste time." Tunde had already been to 3 hospitals that morning and hundreds over the past week. Each time, he had been met with cold, bureaucratic indifference. At one facility, a nurse said, "Oga, bed full. Try somewhere else." At another, a doctor muttered something about limited resources and barely glanced at Chijioke before moving on to other patients. Every rejection felt like a stab to his heart. He hailed a Danful bus, his son still in his arms, the boy's tiny body limp against his chest. The bus smelled of fried yam and exhaust, and the driver shouted curses at his slow-moving truck. Around him, passengers jostled and muttered, glancing at Chijioke with quiet suspicion, some offering sympathetic nods. "I am his father. I must save him. I will not, cannot lose him." He tried the 4th hospital. Its entrance was crowded with people coughing and sneezing, staff shouting instructions in a mix of English and Yoruba. At the reception, a young nurse frowned at him. "Sir, you need an appointment." "My son, he's very ill. He could die." "Sir, we have protocols. If you can't follow them, I cannot help you." Tunde felt a wave of anger mixed with hopelessness. The hospital doors seemed like walls of stone closing around him and his son. Outside, the city's noise pressed in as if to mock his helplessness. That evening, he sat on the steps outside his compound, Chijioke's head resting on his lap. The boy's cough rattled in his chest. Street lights flickered to life, casting long shadows over the alley. Tunde pressed his hand to his son's forehead. It was burning. He whispered a prayer under his breath, not sure if anyone or anything was listening. He rocked Chijioke gently, feeling the boy's tiny hand curl weakly around his finger. The sounds of Lagos at night, the distant calls of traders closing their stalls, the occasional car horn, the murmur of children playing in the alley, created a strange rhythm that reminded him the city did not stop even when lives hung on the balance. "Papa, it hurts," whispered Chijioke, his voice barely audible. Tunde kissed his forehead, trying to steady his own shaking hands. The father's mind was a whirlwind of worry and guilt. He thought of all the times he had promised protection, of all the nights he had prayed. And now, faced with the possibility of losing his son, the weight of helplessness pressed on him like the humid Lagos air. He stood, carrying Chijioke to his small car. The engine rattled as he drove through the busy streets, past street vendors selling roasted yam and akara, past the clatter of matatus honking impatiently. Every second felt like an eternity. At each hospital gate, he repeated the desperate plea he had repeated countless times before. "Please, my son, he's very sick. He cannot wait." Each time, the response was bureaucracy, exhaustion, or indifference. And with each bed full or come back later, Tunde's heart sank further. Finally, defeated and exhausted, he returned to his compound as night fell. The streets glistened with recent rain, reflecting the neon light of small shops and street lamps. He sat on the steps, holding his son, who shivered weakly in his arms. The sounds of Lagos at night wrapped around them, the the hum of distant traffic, the bark of a dog, the soft chatter of neighbors, but none of it reached him. He was alone with his fear and with the fragile weight of Chijioke in his arms. And then, a presence. A man seated a few meters away against the wall. Tunde had not seen him arrive. The stranger's calm gaze fixed on him, unsettling and curious at the same time. He wore a long dark coat, oddly out of place in the humid Lagos night. "You are tired. I see a father fighting against the impossible." Tunde blinked, heart hammering. Who was this man? And yet, something about him made Tunde listen, made him feel that maybe, just maybe, hope had not completely vanished. The next morning, Tunde's mind was a whirlwind. He could not sleep, could not eat, and could not stop thinking about the man he had seen the night before. He walked through the busy streets of Lagos, past stalls selling roasted corn and suya, past children kicking a tattered football, searching for any sign of the stranger. And then he saw him, seated beneath a large mango tree at the Ikorodu market, calm as though he had been waiting all along. "You are here," the man said simply, eyes fixed on Tunde with a strange intensity. "Yes, I am," Tunde replied, heart hammering in his chest. "Please, I need your help. There is a medicine, but not one you can find in any hospital," the man explained. "It requires a gift, something precious, giving willingly. Your heart must speak the truth. Only then can your son live." Tunde's stomach twisted. "A gift? What kind of gift?" "Your deepest fear," the man said. "Your sacrifice will awaken the medicine. Without it, he will not survive. You must choose. What are you willing to surrender?" Tunde thought of Chijioke's small hands, his laughter, his bedtime stories. He felt panic, guilt, and desperation all at once. Could he surrender something so personal, something so heavy? Yet the stranger's eyes seemed to look into his very soul, leaving no room for hesitation. I will do whatever it takes. I will give anything." The man nodded slowly. "Anything is a dangerous word, but your love is your strength. It will guide you if you have the courage to speak the truth." He led Tunde through narrow alleys, past traders setting up their stalls, past children playing marbles, until they reached a small courtyard hidden behind a row of shuttered shops. There, the man produced a small clay pot filled with a liquid that shimmered like sunlight on the Lagos lagoon. "This is the medicine," he said, "but it only works with the gift you offer. You must name it aloud. Speak it, feel it, give it willingly." Tunde's hands shook. He thought of all he had already given, his money, his pride, his sleep. Now he was being asked to give something deeper, something no one could see. Fear, despair, love, all tangled together. I offer my fear," he whispered, voice cracking. "I give my fear of losing him. I give it freely." The man nodded slowly. "Then he will live. But remember, fear shapes the world. Once you surrender it, responsibility remains." Tunde took the clay pot and felt a warmth pulse through his hands, filling him with a quiet certainty he had never known. He rushed home, the streets alive with Lagos morning sounds, the clatter of traffic, the calls of street vendors, the laughter of children. Yet the city felt sharper, more vivid, as if every sound reminded him of life and fragility. That evening, Tunde administered the medicine to Chijioke, each drop glinting like liquid sunlight. He watched over his son, waiting, praying. The boy coughed less, his chest eased, and slowly Tunde saw color returning to his pale cheeks. A small smile flickered across Chijioke's face. "Papa," whispered the child. Tunde pressed his forehead to his son's, tears running freely. Relief, hope, and exhaustion mixed into a single heartbeat. Days passed, and Chijioke grew stronger, running barefoot through the streets of Lagos, his laughter ringing through alleys and markets. Tunde returned to the market, hoping to see the man again, to thank him. But the mango tree stood empty. The stranger had vanished, leaving only the faintest whisper of mystery in the wind. Tunde understood the lesson. True love demanded courage beyond desperation. Faith sometimes required trust in what one could not see. And sacrifice, though unseen, shaped not just outcomes, but character. He had surrendered his fear, and in return, his son lived. He walked through the market, noticing the colors, the sounds, the smells, the life around him, and he carried with him a quiet knowledge. The bravest act a person could take was to trust, to act with love, even when the world seemed cruel and indifferent. Days turned into weeks, and Chijioke grew stronger. His laughter returned, echoing through the narrow streets of Lagos. He ran barefoot across dusty alleys, chased by friends, his small hands gripping marbles and footballs. Tunde watched him, heart swelling, knowing that each smile was a victory against despair. Tunde often reflected on the mysterious man and the gift he had offered. No one else knew the truth. He had surrendered his deepest fear, and in return, his son had lived. But more than that, he had learned something profound about love, courage, and faith.